I got a tip for you guys.
Okay. What's the tip?
If you own a convertible, never leave the top down no matter how good the weather looks.
Are you ready to master Angular? Oasis Digital offers Angular Bootcamp, a 3-day intense workshop class for individuals or teams. They cover Angular 4 and 2 and focus on the skills and knowledge you need for complex, data-rich applications. They also still offer AngularJS for teams supporting older projects. Bring them to your site or send developers to them in St. Louis, San Francisco, New York, DC, and other cities, and online at angularbootcamp.com.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another Adventures in Angular. This week on our panel we have Ward Bell.
Hello.
Joe Eames.
Hey everybody.
I'm Charles Max Wood from devchat.tv. Quick shout out about Angular Dev Summit. It's going to be free. It's going to be in September. And Gil, our guest today, is going to be speaking at it. Gil, do you want to say hi?
Hi everybody.
Do you want to give us a brief introduction? You were on My Angular Story, but for those that didn't hear that episode, you want to tell people who you are?
Yeah. So if you don't know me, I'm Gil Fink. I'm the CEO of Sparxys. It's my own small consulting company here in Israel. And I'm a Microsoft MVP in the last 9 years in web development. And I wrote a book, Pro Single Page Application Development, 4 years ago. And I'm speaking in conferences, and I'm doing a lot of consulting here in Israel in very big companies like Nice Systems and Tabula and other known companies.
Awesome. Well, we brought you in today to talk about Angular animations, and that's what we're going to be talking about at the conference as well. But for those that aren't aware or just haven't used them, can you kind of give us the 2-minute version of what Angular animations are and how people tend to use them?
No problem. So, first of all, Angular animation is a model that you can use in Angular, of course. It's available since Angular 2.0, but in the 4 version, it got its own model, and it went out from the Angular core. It's based on Web Animation API, and it gives you DSL, a dynamic specific language, to write animations declaratively, and of course using Typescript in the components, and then you can use animations inside of your application. So it makes your life very easy, and you don't need to be afraid of writing animations, because I know a lot of people just shiver when somebody says to them, go and write animation inside of some web application or web page. So it makes things much more easier to write.
And I know there are some people who are really new that listen to the show. And so just to clarify, when we're talking about animations, we're not necessarily talking about making your web page a swirling vortex of text. Generally, the idea is having like a button fade in, or part of your screen slide up and another one slide into its place, or something like that, where it just kind of grabs the eye and gives the user experience a little extra oomph so that people know what's changing or where they should look or what their new capabilities are.
It's like what you described. Animation gives you better user experience because they indicate that something is happening or happened in your screen. For example, you gave a lot of good examples, but for example, if you want to show the user that he has a validation error, so you can create your animation on some text box, and red animation or red border will appear and blink for 2 to 3 times, and then it will grab the user's eye, and he will understand that there is some mistake in the validation. This is one example. A lot of things like that you could have done without animations. Okay, the model animation can give you a lot of very interesting things, and it enables you to create very sophisticated things. But if I'm looking back 15 years ago when I was a developer, you could have created some not fancy animation like hover effects on buttons to show the user that he is hovering on top of some buttons. So animation in a whole is just some trigger or some motion that grabs the user's eye and do something. It's not supposed to be some fancy things, but it can be fancy things. Okay, we can go wild and create some very sophisticated animation, and we can create some very small animations that will affect our user and made him or her understand that something happened in the web page.
Got it. Now, you mentioned the Web Animation API. Do you want to explain what that is really quickly?
Yeah. So basically, the animation model in Angular is based on, I won't say it's new, but it's because it's something like available for 2 years already, if I'm not mistaken. It's an API that is called Web Animation API. And in a whole, it added to every DOM element the opportunity or the ability to be animated. How you do that? There is a function called animate. You give it some animation array, keyframes, and it will run the animation for you. So, as I said, the model, the Angular animation model, is based on that API. And that API is, I won't say simple, okay, because nothing in programming is simple, but once you understand that, you can understand how the Angular team created their animation model. Okay, so every time that I'm talking about animations in Angular, I'm always talking about what was before and before animations, and then what happened once we have the Web Animation API, and then I'll drill down into Angular animation in a whole.
So what kinds of things do you see people doing with these animations? I mean, we talked about some of the ways that it can enhance your user experience, but are there specific use cases for this that are more common than others, or?
For example, in SPA, you can create animation of transitions between pages. This is very commonly a thing to do. You can do stuff like, as you mentioned, some appearing or fading in or fading out animation in order to fade in some element or fade out some element. And you can create some transitions that panels. I had the experience of creating some very sophisticated panel for Taboola two weeks ago. So that panel is sliding from the screen from the left, and its header is sliding from the top, and then you create some animation for that grabs the user's eye. It close button and X button do flipping, okay, once you hover over it. So that was a nice thing to implement. And these are some examples of what you can do with animations. It doesn't necessary, or it's not necessary something that some animation in video or things like that. And you can, of course, animate things like SVG or animate things like you could have created things in Canvas, but in a whole, those things can extend and create much more sophisticated user experience. And even some blinking stuff can be animation, but please don't blink some stuff. It's annoying, and it reminds me the blink element that we all in the past used or tried not to use.
I miss the blink element.
The days.
Yeah, I'm only familiar with the blink element that was awesome. I'm I don't remember a blink element that wasn't awesome, which is what you're talking about.
Next, you will talk about marquee.
Nothing better than a good marquee. Really sets your website apart.
Yeah.
That's what you use for under construction, and everything is always under construction.
Yeah. So when you're doing animations, right, and you're a typical web developer, and you hate animations, and they're a big pain in the butt, and you want to do them, and you don't know what to do, and you don't know how to do it, and you don't know where to go to find out what to do it, where do you start?
First of all, what I suggest to do is to understand what is animation. So one of the things that I saw was a very good session about how animation was created, the real animation, not in websites, but rather, animations, movies, and things like that. So you can start by understanding the concepts of animations. This is one thing. Not all of us are want some education about that, and most of us will want to run and rush and write their first animation. So either you see or read some examples in the web, or you can go and read some posts about what is transitions and animations in CSS3, because this was the first thing that I won't say the first thing, but these models, CSS3 animation and transitions models, help to make animation more adaptive in a website, and more, website started to use them very freely. Then I suggest to go to places like MDN, the Mozilla Development Network, and read stuff about Web Animation API, and understand what is the API and how you can use it. Once you understand the concept of animation and the tools, then I suggest to go to and read about the Angular animation model and how to use it. Because from my experience, I prefer to deep dive into the bits and bytes, or open the hood and understand what's underneath. So basically, Angular animations are based on Web API, on Web Animation API and on CSS3 animations and transitions. And if you want, you can go and read stuff about the Angular animation model, but I prefer to deep dive into the basics of how you can, and to understand how they created it, and then to go and then apply animations using that model. You don't need Angular animation model in order to create animations and sophisticated animations in your website. You can do that using CSS3 animation and transitions or Web Animation API, but we are talking about adventures in Angular, so of course we will aim to use an animation through Angular model, which gives you very good API to create animations and to reuse those animations later on in your website.
So how do I go about adding animations then to my Angular app? Let's say I have a text box that I want to change the color on, or make move in a specific way to grab somebody's attention.
So the first thing you would do is go and grab the browser animation model, which is part of the animation, which includes the whole animation model for in Angular. Once you have that model in the web, in the component or in your application, then you will create a trigger. A trigger is just something that triggers the effect or the animation. So if you, for example, want to create some fade-in effect or fade-out effect, you will create a trigger and you will give it a name. The name will be fade-in, fade-out, or etc. And then you just write your animation. How you do that? Using the API. For example, you can create a transition from some in property, not in property, but from some effect to another effect. For example, moving from 0 opacity to 1 opacity in order to create your fade in or animation. So in a whole, you create a transition, you create state, and you move from one state to the other state using the API. So then you will, once you have the trigger, you can write the trigger inside your web component in the templates. Okay, in the templates that you create. So, for example, if you created the fade in trigger by name, and you in the template write some div, and you will do @fade in equals, and then you will give the fade in trigger the states. Either it's, for example, in or out, or which name do you that you want to use on some, I don't know, a property in your application. And then once you do that, you just take the trigger that you created, which is a function, and you pass that function to in the component declaration to the animations property. That's all. It sounds very, very frightening, but it's once you do it once, you will do it very fast in the second and third and the next time. Okay?
And is applying it to one particular element in the page the same as applying it to, say, a container or something else, some other element that is created by Angular and contains other elements?
You can apply it to a component, and you can also apply animations not only on components, but rather on some even pages. Okay, but page is a component, so in a whole you apply it to a component, or you can create some queries inside of your animations, and then you can apply inside a component different animations on elements that exist inside that specific component.
What about getting a sense for when and where you should be using animations? Right? Like you should, yeah, I know that I see a lot of websites where either they're going crazy or they're just not even doing it enough.
Okay, so you need to understand that there is a balance between creating some crazy, as you said, insane animations on everything and not doing anything. For example, my thumb of rule is don't use animation at start, and then if you have some UX expert in the company, or you have some consultant UX expert that comes and help the team that you work with, then use that UX expert in order to understand where to put animations. Most of the times they know where and where. For example, in the example that I gave earlier about the sophisticated panel, I would have removed the scrolling or flipping close button, because it's nice and people might see it as something interesting, but once you move on it once or twice, it might drag you crazy. So you need a balance between animations, and not everything should be animated at all. Okay, so I prefer starting without any animations and then adding animations in iterations according to specs, if you have some specs, or so according to some UX expert guidelines, or for example, you don't need tons of animations because in a whole it might distract the users from the things that they should do in your application. So if you're using animations, they should be some guidance for you of how to use the application. Okay, and not everything should be animated, because as you said, Joe, if you are doing a lot of animations, you won't see a lot of users.
Right.
This episode is brought to you by Gamefly.com. Gamefly has over 8,000 new releases and classics available to rent for Xbox One, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, PS Vita, Wii U, Wii, and 3DS, as well as older systems. As a Gamefly member, you can rent as many console or handheld games as you want and get them delivered right to your mailbox for one low monthly fee. If you like a game so much that you don't want to send it back, you can keep it for a low used price. There are never any due dates or late fees. Gamefly also offers the ability to rent Blu-ray and DVD movies as part of the regular service at no extra charge. They're offering a premium 3-day trial for free. That's one game out, shipped directly to you, with a pre-addressed envelope included for easy returns. No contracts, cancel anytime. You can get this 30-day free trial at gameflyoffer.com/devchat. That's gameflyoffer.com/devchat for a 30-day free trial.
What about coming up with like ideas on how to use animation to make things clearer in your applications?
So, for example, the first thing that goes into my mind is animations for things like models. Okay, that's something that I did today. If a model is appearing, okay, at once, it might be very shocking to a user. So you will fade it in smoothly. Okay, so this is one example. So animations need to indicate that something is happening or happened. So, for example, if I click a button and some request went to the server, and then that data set came to the client, some JSON with some items, and I want to create some list, I will animate the list creation a little bit, but I won't do it in some fancy or sophisticated animation, but rather, the first element will appear, and then the second, and then the third, and et cetera, and hopefully smoothly that the user will see it, that something really happened. So these are some examples.
So you don't want all of the elements on your page bouncing at the same time?
You can do that as well, but I think that once something is scrolling, like fading in, it gives the user the feel that something is really happening. Okay, so this is my opinion. Of course, there might be another developer or UX expert that will probably say to me that you're talking nonsense. Okay, but that's something that I always love to do.
I think if you made all the elements on your page bounce at once, I'd want to slap you.
Swirling
Why is
vortex
that?
of text.
Vortex. No. I prefer not to use some vortex that things will, scramble and become available.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, if you have everything animated, then you don't know where to look, just like if you have nothing animated. I mean, it's effectively the same result, if you go too far one way or too far the other.
You need to find the balance.
Yep. I'm a little bit curious. Do you tend to work the animations in as you build out your single-page app or your Angular app, or do you tend to just build out kind of the core basic features? I enter data, it works, it saves to the server, blah, blah, blah. And then go back and say, okay, now I'm adding in all the validation stuff, or do you do that as you build out each component?
It's a straight answer. I'm doing that when I build the component. Each component gets its animation if needed.
Gotcha. And do you decide right off the bat when you're creating the component? Like at what point in the process do you be like, you know what, this really needs an animation here to clarify what's going on?
So, as I said, in most of the companies that I work with, there are some UX experts that have some guidelines about how to create the components that then I'm helping the companies to create. So here I don't have any say because they are coming to me and they're saying something like, hey, Gil, build that component. Here are the animations that we want to do, and please make it smooth and very fast, of course.
What do you do when they're idiots and they don't know, and what their idea is totally wrong? Then what do you tell them?
And then I will tell them that the ideas are wrong. Okay, because I prefer my integrity, and if something is wrong in my opinion, I will express that. Then, if they want me to continue as they said, I will do the job, but I will do it in a sour face. No, I'm not doing that in sour face. But once I see something that isn't right, I will probably say something to the managers or even to the UX expert that, in my opinion, it shouldn't be created like this, and these are the alternatives. But if they're complete idiots and they don't have some user experience expert, then I have my own small guidelines of what to animate and what not to animate. And the example of the validation that I gave in the beginning of this talk is it's something that developers are doing, but I think it's wrong. Okay, because you don't want to disturb the user, even though there is some error. I prefer to mark the text box, for example, in a red border and not to animate some blinking effects and things like that. But these are things that people are doing. For example, if I have some panel, I will probably make a smooth transition for the panel when it appears, either it's from the left from the right, from up or down, but panel shouldn't appear from emptiness to full opacity without some small animations. Even though it might, once you heavily using animations, it might affect the performance of the web page, of course.
Right.
So is there a way of testing that these animations are happening? Because it seems like it's a pretty visual thing, and those are the things that I find tricky to test. But I like to test and see, oh, this happened. So are you just looking for classes or something on the DOM, or is there some other way to test it?
A very, very good question. There are tools not to test animations, like, for example, Protractor or Selenium underneath, or even a tool that a friend of mine wrote, testim.io, which gives you the options to record the screen, but they won't help you to understand animations, because animations are basically something that is created using the browser includes some animation engine that you can test that, and it calculates a lot of calculation in order to create the smooth animations that we are seeing. So either you can check for some existence of class names, or you can check other things, or you will have some manual tester or manual quality assurance person that will check that for you. Okay. Mainly, I prefer to check the performance of animations, because this is something that you can do using developer tools. But other than that, to see if the effect is working, you need to see the effect working.
So just talking to you, it seems a whole lot less scary than it was. Are there other aspects of animations that we haven't talked about that might make it more scary, or at least things that we need to be thinking about that we haven't?
Animations includes a lot of things, and animation shouldn't be some scary thing at all. Once you understand how they work, then it won't be any scary like any other development assignment that you have or a development task. There are things inside the animation model, the Angular animation models, that I want to mention because they are very, in my opinion, they are very important. For example, the option to do grouping of animations. This is something very, very, very good as a tool, because from time to time you need to group some animation or to create a stagger effect, or even other things like events. This is something that you have inside of the animation model. You have events that you can wire into the animation when it starts, when it ends, and things like that. And these are the tools that you will use in order to impose the animation. And you might create an animation, and you might want to stop it from before because of some reason. So you have the option to wire into events during the animation running, and these are very, very good tools in your hands that you can use. As I said, because the animation model is based on the Web Animation API, it uses the Web Animation API events underneath. So these are things that can help you create much more sophisticated animations. And if it sounds scary, it's not. And it's in the end, the Angular team did a very, very good job in creating a dynamic specific language in order to you to impose animation. So once you understand the language, animations become very, I won't say simple, but you will be able to create very sophisticated animations in less time.
Cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, before we do picks, Gil, do you want to give people here sort of a 1-minute pitch on what your talk's going to be at Angular Dev Summit?
Not a problem. In the Angular Dev Summit, I'm going to talk about demystifying Angular animations. Things that you heard in this podcast are going to be explained in much more details, and you will be able to see demos of things that I said. For example, I'm going to talk about the Web Animation API. I'm going to talk about, of course, the animation model, and I will explain how to create some nice transitions inside your web application. So there are a lot of things to expect.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and roll over to picks then.
This episode is sponsored by Hired.com. Are you searching for a new job? That can be stressful, scary, and time-consuming. Pushy recruiters try to sell you on roles you don't actually want, and the job boards make you feel like you're throwing your resume into a black hole, never to be seen again. And sometimes you go all the way through the interview process just to find out at the very end that the salary, offer, or company culture doesn't match what you're looking for. Hired is the world's most intelligent talent matching platform for full-time and contract opportunities in engineering, development, design, product management, data science, sales, and marketing. We make your job search faster, focused, and stress-free. Instead of endlessly applying to companies and hoping for the best, Hired puts you in control of when and how you connect with compelling new opportunities. After completing one simple application, top employers apply to hire you. And on Hired, you receive personal interview requests and upfront salary information so you can make informed decisions about what opportunities to pursue over a condensed timeline. Hired offers access to more than 4,000 innovative employers, including big brand names like Facebook and smaller emerging startups. The size and type of company you want to connect with is totally up to you. And we help you find new opportunities in 17 major cities in North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Open to relocation? Let them know. Your privacy and autonomy in your job search is of utmost importance. And if you go check them out at the show's link, that's hired.com/adventures in Angular, you can get double their normal hiring bonus. So instead of $300, you get $600 for signing up at our link. That's hired.com/adventures in Angular.
Roll over.
Joe, do you have some picks for us?
Oh my gosh, I got picks coming out my wazoo. Actually, I only really have one pick. And that is go see an eclipse. For if you did not get the chance to go see the totality of this eclipse that happened at this time of recording, 2 days ago, right?
Yep.
Today's Wednesday, this was Monday. You should definitely, there's another eclipse coming to the continental United States in 2024, only 7 years away. Make your plans now. It was unbelievable. I spent like 2 days. I drove a day away, saw the eclipse, then drove back that same, the next day and saw it. And it was unbelievable. It was just an amazing experience. The difference between seeing like 99% totality and 100% totality is like the difference between seeing sushi and eating sushi. It was totally like amazing. Assuming you like sushi, I love sushi, but it was so awesome. It was just such a unique experience to get to see the totality. We were right on the center line, so we saw it for like 2.5 minutes. Just an unbelievable experience. So that's my pick: is go and check out an eclipse for yourself. Only 1 in 1,000 people ever get to see the totality of an eclipse. It was super cool. So that's it. That's my pick.
Yeah,
I envy you.
I got to see the partiality of the eclipse because I was here in Utah, so it wasn't a total.
Right. We were like 94% or 95% or something, right?
Something like that. The big banana in the sky.
Big banana in the sky. Sounds like a song.
Yeah. But yeah, so is it going to be a total eclipse? Because I think I saw somewhere that they were saying it was like an annular eclipse or something, which means that
in 2024?
Yeah.
I don't know. I did not really look that. Somebody else was talking about it being there, so.
Yeah, it says total, so.
Okay. There you have it.
Yeah, it looks like that one. I just looked it up because I was like, oh, cool. That one's out toward the eastern U.S.
Right.
Eastern half of the U.S.
It cuts from Texas up through New York.
Yep, all the way up through Maine. So, yeah, it should be interesting to do a little road trip in 2024.
I envy
highly
you.
recommend it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super cool. When's the last time you had one around there in Israel?
I don't remember. A full eclipse, I don't remember.
I'm sure there's a website that will tell you when it'll be. But yeah, there's a website that says eclipse is visible in Israel, and I don't know. It's like January 31st, 2018, total lunar eclipse.
Cool. In 1 year.
Yeah, but it's a lunar eclipse. So.
Oh, that's a lunar eclipse. Yeah. That's like the special needs half cousin of a solar eclipse.
And you can look at that without glasses on. So.
Cool.
Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and... oh, that's stupid. It says Israel, Mexico, Mexico. So maybe it's Israel City, Mexico, which is really not helpful. Anyway, I'm sure you can go online and find out when you can see it for you. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. We got some glasses and just went out and looked at it. My wife and I and my son. The other kids, my son's homeschooled. My other kids, just at the school, a lot of the teachers had glasses. So the kids got to go out and see it. It was really a lot of fun, and they were excited about it too. So yeah.
Cool.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in with a couple of picks. The first one is I just reread a book, and I know I picked it not that long ago, but I'm going to pick it again, and that is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. It's just one of those books I decided that some of the concepts in it were things that I needed to review, and so I listened to it again on Audible, and terrific book. I'm now reading another book, and I'm going to pick it as well. I'm going to warn you just up front because it's a little bit of kind of a weird woo-woo book, but it's if you tie some of the woo-woo concepts to your spiritual beliefs, whatever they are, it gets kind of interesting kind of quickly. So, and that's what my business coach said when she recommended it to me. She's like, you're religious, so read it, but make this connection. It's called "You Are the Placebo" by Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Whenever I forget to say doctor, my dad gets on my case because he's a dentist. The doctor is very important. But anyway, so he talks about how he essentially, it's like mind-based healing, and it's based on the placebo effect where, people take a pill that has inert matter in it, and it, for whatever reason, causes them to get better anyway. And this is a phenomenon that's been widely seen, but the causes are pretty much unknown to people. And so, the intro to the book, he talks about a car accident where he was hit by a car while he was riding his bike in a triathlon, and how he recovered, even though the doctor said that without this surgery he would essentially be paralyzed. And so, he basically was saying that he was sending messages to his body from his mind, and that through that, he was able to actually heal himself. And, the concepts are interesting, but I also find that our own limitations in life are generally boil down to our own mental limitations, like where we put the fences in our head. And people tend to rise or fall to the degree that they believe they can or can't. And so, this kind of takes it all the way out to the extreme. And that's what I'm enjoying about this book, is that it is challenging me to think, okay, well, what can I accomplish? Like, what are the limitations? What aren't the limitations? Where am I blocking myself from achieving what I want to achieve? And, I am religious, and so a lot of it is, and if I have faith, if I trust God, then how much further can I go? And, a lot of people have a lot of different spiritual beliefs. But, I think this applies to a lot of those, is just, whether it's universe energy or your own mental power over your body or your surroundings. I think a lot of times we wind up selling ourselves short just by telling ourselves that it's impossible. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm getting out of it. I don't know if that made any sense, but that's kind of what I'm into these days. Gil, what are your picks?
So for the talk today, first of all, it's Dominic Elm's article in ThoughtRam blog, the web animation deep dive with Angular. I suggest to go there, and if you want to start writing with using the animation model, that blog post is very deep dive into animation. It also includes web animation API reference, so it's very good. The second pick is JavaScript Israel. It's a meetup in Israel for JavaScript, of course. It is run by Shai Resnick and some community fellows like me. And we have the next meetup on this Monday. It's all about progressive web apps. We have 4 talks, very interesting talks. Last but not least, Rick and Morty. Did you hear about that TV show?
I've heard of it. I actually have some doodads from it, but...
Okay, so I love insane TV shows, animation TV shows, and Rick and Morty is an insane show, and I suggest people who love things like, I don't know, South Park or Simpsons or things like that, go and watch one or two chapters or episodes and see if they like it. I liked it a lot.
Awesome. One last question, Gil. If people want to see what you're working on now or follow you on Twitter, GitHub, I don't know if you have a blog, do you want to tell us where all that stuff is?
Okay, so first of all, they can go to www.gilfink.net, and from there you can find my blog, which is hosted in Medium, but from gilfink.net you have a link there. You will also find there where I'm going to speak, conferences and videos of sessions that I delivered and were recorded in conferences. You can also go to my company's website. It's www.sparxys.com. Sparxys is written Sparxys. And there you can find details about my companies and the services that we give.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Thanks for coming, Gil.
Thanks for hosting me.
All right. We will catch everyone next week.
See ya.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.